these people are. This is
This is ridiculous, but you know it's not. We're back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the part-time adventurer. That's Mark, the resident Jedi.
We're here today to talk about. We have a PSA. We're trying to help you stay out of trouble, help you keep your house, help you not go to jail. So today, on the 15th of April, the taxiest of all days, don't forget to either file your taxes or an extension, even if you don't have any money. And while you're doing that, you can listen to us talk about a story, up and coming phenom that was inspired to take up his mantle as the greatest in his individual sport because Grandma didn't pay her taxes. Of course,
She
we're talking
would've.
about the classic Happy Gilmore.
We're going back to the 90s on this one. We're going old school because we're kind of contemplating as to like, there's no good movies coming out. What the hell do we do? This seems to be like a recurring theme on every episode because we're trying to find stuff that's worth talking about. And this was the year that we were like, you know what? Fuck it. If nothing good is coming out, let's just go back to the well, and it's tax day. Why don't we do a movie about taxes? And first thing that came to mind was Happy Gilmore. So, and by the way, Happy's grandma would have paid the taxes. She just didn't have any money. Still one of like my favorite lines in that entire movie.
She's so
But
old. You can't take her
you
thing.
can't.
She's old.
I mean, look at her. She's just old. How did you originally see this movie? Did you see it in theaters or was it on home video?
Oh, there's no way I saw this in theaters. I was not influential enough to get my parents to see something like this. But by the time it hit cable, it was whenever I could watch it. I love this movie.
I don't even know if we were old enough to really demand to go see that movie, right? Like, I think we may have been like 11 when that came out.
It came
So,
out in 96. So I was 1 year pre like junior high. So this was not like this or 1 year pre high school. So I mean, technically, if you had cool parents, you could have gone and seen this. But yeah, no, I did not get access like that to new movies. Harlem
yeah,
Corners, though, still a jam. R.I.P.
it was so freaking good. And I'm glad that we decided to watch this again. When was the last time you watched this movie? And how many times have you seen the movie?
So I'm going to say this. I've wanted to watch this for a minute, and Sandler's stuff like comes on and off of all these streaming services so much that I was stoked that you inspired me to go back and reinspect. But I quote this movie a lot more than I watch it. I'll say that.
What are some of the quotes?
Well, your back's gonna hurt now, or go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep. Um,
Yeah.
Somebody's closer.
It's such a quotable movie. I want to say this was probably the first quotable movie that it really, really stuck into me and went on for years. Like for this, I would say even going into like my senior year of high school, people would still quote this movie. And at that point, it was already like 4 or 5 years old. And, I guess, kids just like to do shit that is familiar to them. So they stick to the good old Happy Gilmore, Adam Sandler stuff.
I mean, Sandler was like right there with a childish sense of humor and right at our thing, right? I mean, there were other movies that were super quotable that came out similar in from a timing perspective, but I think this one resonated the most. You had your Austin Powers quotes, which have aged poorly. I don't know if you were a big Princess Bride fan as a kid, but
Never
even
saw it.
those were ah,
Still haven't seen it to this day. Never read the
ah,
book. Nothing.
how dare you?
I'm
For
sure
those
it's
of us
good.
for those of us that were cool, we saw Monty Python and we're quoting that from a comedy perspective. But like great comedy movies that were quotable kind of started in this era, like Ace Ventura and The Mask and stuff like Jim Carrey quotes and stuff. But I just feel like none of them have held the test of time like a Happy Gilmore, right? Like Anchorman has, but that came a decade or more later.
I was definitely quoting Back to the Future, Karate Kid, and Terminator, and all those other childhood movies that I've seen hundreds of times. But this was the one where it was like, people actually knew what I was talking about
Hmm.
because they actually saw the movie too. So, um, yeah,
Yeah,
like I think this was just like a really cool revisit that we've had a run of movies that were supposed to be good, and then movies that were surprisingly good, and then movies that were just complete off the wall. I won't say terrible, but just we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. So this was just like a nice breath of fresh air and a kind of nostalgic. We love nostalgia. Just going back to our childhood and revisiting some of these scenes and pieces of dialogue and quotes. Overall, for Adam Sandler, are you an Adam Sandler fan? Like, are you a celebrator of his entire catalog?
I think that the SNL stuff I appreciated as I got older. Like it wasn't childish humor. It wasn't like aimed at where I was, where this was, right? Billy Madison, still an amazing movie, but even that, is as much as that's quotable. This is just this just hits for me. Is probably one of my, if not my favorite Sandler movie. It is Happy Gilmore. But I do enjoy Sandler. I even watch the new stuff, hoping that it's going to be good. I've almost turned on that movie with the giant spider in space. Haven't yet, but have thought about
Wait,
it. It could
which
be a
one is
good
that?
podcast. It's on Netflix. It's like a straight to Netflix movie. It could be something that we review later on.
What's it? No, what's it called though?
I have no idea. It's just a giant spider in space. Sandler, it's like in his brain. It's like it's not a funny movie. It is
Oh,
like
okay.
serious Sandler. There was such a run of amazing Sandler movies when after this and a little bit before it, that how could you have grown up? Like, how could you have been watching movies in the late 90s and been, at our age with our level of humor and not been an Adam Sandler fan and not absolutely loved things like Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore and The Wedding Singer, just amazing. Um, I even liked, and I saw it early, was Airheads, which was
Oh,
probably my
fuck yeah.
introduction. Airheads is so good, but yeah, no, I celebrate the man's entire catalog.
Going into this, I would say that like I wasn't like the biggest Adam Sandler fan. I find him very entertaining, but as time went on and I saw some of his other movies, like there are some movies that are just so freaking funny of his. Like You Don't Mess with the Zohan
I
is
love the Zohan.
hilarious.
I
So
love Zohan.
good.
Dude, That's My Boy might
Hilarious.
be top five at this point, Sandler movies.
Oof.
It's
Yeah.
so, it just hits over and over and over again. You expect them to kind of trail off. And he does have a few that you're just like, like Jack and Jill, where he played, it's like you're stretching it a little there, Sandman.
Yeah.
But then he brings it back in and he gets you right back with I even liked the Grown Ups movies. And then like
Grown Ups was
Blended
fine. Yeah,
was
it was good.
hilarious. I
Something I
mean,
was surprised. I just recently watched that I don't know the full title of it, but like you're definitely not invited to my bat mitzvah. I think
I
that's what it
haven't
was
seen
called,
that
but
one.
it's good. It's entertaining. I'm not Jewish, so I don't have that connection for it, but like
Mhm.
it's still entertaining and I will give kudos to his family that act in it. It's really cool that he brought his family in. Just like, what he does for his other movies where he brings his
Yeah.
friends in for like grown-ups and stuff. It's pretty awesome the fact that a guy who did just like some silly voices like oh Scooby Doo, he's built this empire and production company, and it's just him and his buddies making movies.
The fact that I can't cook a turkey without listening to an Adam Sandler song every year, it just cries to why you can't deny the
He
great.
definitely was one of my favorites on Saturday Night Live. Did you ever see? I think I talked about it before on one of the episodes, but did you ever see the Canteen Boy skit with him and Alec Baldwin?
I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it. I was
Oh
always on
my
Mr.
gosh,
Picklehand Man. Now give me some damn candy. Or the Red Hooded
that
Sweatshirt song.
that was my I think it might be like my favorite SNL skit ever because it's just so inappropriate but so funny at the same time. And Alec Baldwin plays a scoutmaster, and there's the reputation of scoutmasters, and they like to diddle boys, and that's exactly what they were attempting to do in that skit. And I think it's been pulled, and I don't even think that they have it anywhere because there was such outrage on that skit. I think they've kind of like blacklisted it, so you can find it on YouTube. But yeah, I don't think you're really gonna find like a high production quality video of it. So speaking of Adam Sandler, obviously he plays a hockey player who can't fucking skate, which is hilarious to me, but he has a hell of a slap shot. Are you a golf fan? Do you like to play golf?
I wish I did it more, but I find it to be an enjoyable pastime. Uh, I also would love to play hockey if I could actually skate, but I don't think I have a hell of a slap shot. What about you? Are you a golfer?
I can't do either of them very well.
Mm. I didn't say I
I've
did it
tried.
very well. That's the best part about golf is you can suck at it, but you ride a little cart in nature and you have a few drinks and everything's fine.
I'm
Gamble a
good for
little.
9 holes, but that's about it. Like anything over 9 holes, I'm going through the motions or not going through the motions, indicative of my score. So when I saw the premise of the movie, I was like, how can this possibly be funny? And then I saw the trailer where he's like beating the shit out of people. Like, okay, I can see why this is funny. So
Price
let's
is
give it a
wrong,
shot.
bitch.
I think I remember the exact time of when I saw this because it was back in the day of Orland Video. And I
Oh,
believe I rented it from the one that was on 171st and 88th Avenue. So
wow.
yeah, shout out to those
Shout out to that
Orland
closed
videos.
business.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah, exactly. It
Mm.
was like it was a Wednesday where they had like, oh, cool, two for one video rentals. So everyone would just fucking stock up on video rentals on those days, and I would ride back home carrying a stack of VHS tapes and trying not to drop them. So I did a pretty good job of it too.
They
So
were durable. It was fine. It was
yay,
fine.
11-year-old me for doing that.
I
But
will say that the subject of golf at the time that this movie came out, golf was in this resurgence because of Tiger Woods. So golf was like more mainstream and popular. And I think that this movie has done a lot for the game in general. And I mean, it made it more accessible.
Adam Sandler and his brand of humor in combination with the golf, is this like your cup of tea? Like, are you good
Oh,
with Adam Sandler?
I'm here for this. I'm here for swearing after you hit something. I'm here for the putter throw. I'm here for testing its durability and bringing it to its family. I'm here for all of it.
It is like a very well put together movie. Like in comparison to Billy Madison, like I thought Billy Madison was great and I thought it was super funny. But comparing Happy Gilmore to Billy Madison, it was just like, oh wow, Billy Madison is kind of like a shit movie. It's funny, but it's kind of a shit movie. Like it's not really that well put together. There are some elements of comedic genius and comedic performance genius, so it's like it's still good. I'm not bashing it by any means. When you're going in from Billy Madison to where it's like in the first few scenes of Adam Sandler, where he goes from just being drunk and then all of a sudden he's just dancing to Culture Club on a staircase. Like, where the fuck did that come from? Pitching this movie, it's like, yeah, and we're gonna have like a little dance number here. Really? That's what you guys want to do? You want to have a dance number with Adam Sandler? Like, is he on drugs or something? Like, no, he's just drunk, but he's just dancing on a staircase. Okay, here's a few million to to make your movie, I guess. Like, it's so funny to me how some of these movies get made and what some of those discussions are, or if those discussions are even had.
I mean, Billy Madison, like you said, is a great movie, but you also have to look at like who they had and who directed and who was part of it, right? Like the director of that movie was uh Tamra Davis, who at the time just had not done that much. The one of the main differences between she'd done like music videos. Uh, and she did CB4, which was a Chris Rock movie, another like SNL runoff movie, but she hadn't done anything great. She mostly directed music videos. So there wasn't a lot of like cinematography attached to them. And even after Billy Madison, she continued and has continued to do more just from a music video and like smaller movie perspective. More lately, she's done some things that are better. But when you look at Happy Gilmore, you've got Dennis Dugan, who came in from Police Squad and has done so many and it has been like a very regular presence in the Sandler movies. So you brought somebody who understands how to shoot a comedy. And I think that the difference between those two movies, as they are in succession in Sandler's credits, I think that that is, to me, the major difference is you did well enough with Billy Madison to like, okay, we can make this better, but it's mostly in how do you contain this guy and do the thing, but do it funny. So you brought in the guy that made Leslie Nielsen look hilarious.
Yeah, like for Adam Sandler and the story for Happy Gilmore, I was all about it and I really enjoyed it. I don't think we necessarily need to go through every single quip, but at the same time, I'm kind of curious as to what your version of the plot is.
Heroic athletic efforts save childhood home.
And that's it. That's all it is, right? It's
Does it need
you made
more?
that way deeper than I thought it was gonna be.
I mean, I do what I can. I could have done it in a Gene Simmons kiss mask.
Let's just go right into the stuff that we enjoy about this movie. Like, what are some of your favorite gags? What? Just start rattling them
I,
off.
it just starts from the beginning, right? From the grandma intro as a little kid was just great, and I want to acknowledge that actress, Frances Bay.
Yes, R.I.P. Frances Bay, but yeah,
R.I.P.
she
Well,
was
yeah,
great.
she was
She
old.
was
She was
she was
old.
also in I can't remember what character she played, but she was hilarious in Seinfeld. She was in a few episodes of Seinfeld, I believe,
She
if I'm
was
not mistaken.
the marble rye.
Yes,
Give
yes,
me a
that's what it
Joe
was.
bag. Yeah, no,
God, so
she was
funny.
hilarious in that. So perfect in this, and yeah, I the intro was great. It got you in it. You're just like, huh? And then you do the hockey tryouts.
I like how they just gloss over the fact that like, and after the funeral, I went to go live with my grandma. Like, so his dad just died
Yeah.
while they were watching Terry O'Reilly play. It's a
Hmm.
nice little narrator backstory to
Hmm.
everything, and it's funny though because then nothing else he doesn't narrate anything else. It's just that narration for just his childhood, and then it goes into like, all right,
Well,
we're
then
in a
we're in the
movie now.
present time. We got to keep moving. We got to keep moving. There's so many things in this movie. Like I can't even single out things, right? The kiss mask piece, the intro to hockey and him just trying to fight everybody. Um, the singing and the scene at the apartment.
Oh, I wanna kiss you all over.
Over and again. You don't want
Bum,
breakfast?
bum, bum. Oh God, so funny. I do that still to this day, and I don't think my wife gets it.
Is that
I
how you
don't.
court your wife? With when the night closes in?
No, I usually get her with the second line of it.
Mhm.
Till the night closes in. So good, man. Like, and Adam Sandler's just kitty style of humor of everything.
Mhm.
It's just so funny to me. Actually, like after I watched this movie, it just happened automatically. It started going into his comedic special on Netflix that he had,
Mhm.
where he's like singing the different songs.
Yeah.
And I just forgot like how much I like Adam Sandler
Oh,
because
dude.
his his sense of humor it's dirty enough for me, but also at the same time, it's clean enough for me. And the degree of silliness is just highly entertaining.
His comedy albums were so good. The Goat song and
Yeah.
just the Red Hooded Sweatshirt again, like one of my favorites. Um,
I don't know if I want to say my favorite one uh on there. Maybe I'll just like play it, but the medium pace is that I can't remember if
oh,
that's the name
yeah.
of the song, but
That's from the new one. That's I like the older
uh,
stuff, man. I like the old
the
stuff.
older stuff, that's like the
Oh, you're
second
right.
album
You're
that he
right.
had.
You're right. Like
Yeah,
I know that you wish that they released the Cena Ricky Stenicki version of the Wedding Singer, but man,
I'd love to hear that. That'd be so
uh
funny.
but this movie's I mean, I've seen the finger paintings you brought home and they're terrible.
I'm sorry, baby. They're excellent finger paintings. It is silly, and I
But the whole
love,
movie is so quotable in context,
yeah,
358
yeah.
more days till hockey tryouts. Got to get in shape.
Gotta toughen myself up. Oh, that hurt a little, but I'm okay.
Oh, it's okay. Then the kid goes in there.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff in that. Gosh, like right when he gets to the golf pro tournament, that's another fun thing where he's partnered up
He gets
and
the
just
caddy and
like,
he runs after him.
yeah, yeah. And then gosh, Kevin Nealon was another great
Oh,
spot in
feel the
this,
flow. Feel the flow. He's
doing
riding
the
the
bull
bull.
dance,
Doing the bull
feeling the
dance.
fluff,
Oh.
feeling it. So good, man. Like there's so, and Christopher McDonald as Shooter McGavin. Has there
Oh.
been a better sports villain
I
than Shooter McGavin?
I mean, there may have been, but
I
man,
mean,
I can't think of one.
besides the racist football coach and Remember the Titans, is there anyone else that is a better sports villain?
So that brings up a very good question about where this ranks. Is this a sports movie or is this a comedy movie?
I mean, in my eyes, it would be a comedy.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't complain if someone said this is a sports movie. Because it is. I mean, there's a lot of sports in it. There's
There
two
is.
sports, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
Not many
Dual
sports
sport
movies have
movie.
more than one sport.
Dual sport movie. So to your point, like we'll put it in the sports category. Now we'll talk about villains. Better villains. Shooter McGavin or the owner from Major League.
I mean, I think you have to go with Shooter McGavin because of the fact that like there's still some redeeming qualities about Shooter McGavin, but there's also some more like memorable quotes and how much of an ass he makes himself look like. Like that to me is just top notch,
I
villain right there.
I'm
It's
there with
like
the
if you make
quotes. Like, I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
you eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
You know what I meant? Better villain.
No.
This is a direct golf movie comparison. Better villain, Judge Smales in Caddyshack or Shooter McGavin? That's such a
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I just because of the recency factor, I'll go with Shooter McGavin, but I wouldn't complain if someone said otherwise.
yeah. I think this movie, a lot of people will compare Caddyshack to Happy Gilmore and be like, what's the better golf movie? And I've got to say, like, I think that they generationally are different, but they're so tight. And Caddyshack is it's a great example of taking some SNL talent and really putting it into a movie and making it amazing, right? Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, all that. And I think it harnessed something. And I think that Happy Gilmore catches that same energy. It's just as quotable now. It's just as pervasive in the sport that it depicts, right? Like people make Caddyshack references just as much as they make Happy Gilmore references. Shooter. And I love seeing some of the interviews that they do now where they talk about how they got there. Specifically, Christopher McDonald, who's like, I just if you watch his interview with Rick Eisen, where he talks about some of the pieces of Happy Gilmore, it's so great just to hear how it just came about. The last shot where he had to make that really long putt, like they let him, they're like, we're just gonna movie magic it. He's like, no, I want to make it. So they're like, you got 10 tries. And he's like, I made it on 7. And I celebrated and yelled all that shit because the crew was heckling me. And I was like, screw you. Yeah. And it just went off. And it all made the movie. And he's like, I would just do things to try and get to where Sandler was at, and is just nuts.
It's cool that he has like a sense of humor and willingness to revisit that, because I'm sure that he doesn't like to be remembered as the guy who eat pieces of shit for breakfast. Like
I
he's
mean,
such
if you've
a
got a thing, you've got a thing. Like,
he does play a good villain, and he's been in quite a few different movies, and he always plays that smug prick expertly, right? And I just wonder, like, I always feel for those actors if they do so well in those types of roles where they're typecasted. I hope it doesn't really affect their personal lives. So we'll
is
see.
it
I don't
bad
know.
that like you could ask me right now, what other Christopher McDonald movies do you like? And I'd be like, I can't, like, I need IMDb to tell me what
Yeah,
else
I
he's
mean,
really been in and been great in.
think about how many movies we've seen, though. Like just because we can't name them off the top of our head doesn't necessarily mean we're any less of a fan. It's just not like we didn't go see the movie because of him, right? We saw it for
No,
other people. So, like,
no.
for example, I mean, like, you got like Requiem for a Dream he was in that, and he was like the game show host dude, and he plays a smug prick expertly in that. But it's not like, oh man, have you seen Requiem for a Dream? Christopher McDonald is great in that. Like, that's not the first thing that comes out of your mouth. It's just like, what a fucked up movie that is, but it's really good. And he just happens to add that additional dimension. He's in quite a bit. You've got Thelma and Louise. He's
Hmm.
in that too, and just there's quite a few movies that he's been in. I'm I'm struggling to come up with some of those names, but I still celebrate him. And I'm wondering, because there is the announcement of the sequel that has happened. I'm wondering if
Oh,
he's going to be back for that.
I've heard that he is. I hope that he is. Because you can't do it without Shooter. Um, there's certain people you can do it without because you have to. But if they don't bring Shooter back, like it would be terrible. Have you seen the Twitter back and forth they had a few years ago where they were just out playing golf and doing the thing? Like
Oh,
Sandler
no.
can still hit it like that? That's a great question. Have you ever, so you don't play golf, right?
I've played, but I don't like playing. Like, I'm not
That's a
like, hey, you want to play golf? Like, I mean, I'll go just hang out with you. Like, I'll play to try to do well, but my patience is so thin with that game.
yeah.
I sold a set of golf clubs at a garage sale a couple weeks back, and I'm like, I'm perfectly fine because I've used them once in the past 6 years. So yeah, I'm good.
When you played, could you hit it that way? Could you take like the three-step swing?
That's something I can never do. I
I've
tried a few
never been
times
able
at
to
the
do it.
driving range. I could never do it.
Never been able to do that. Um, and that's the beauty of this movie is it introduced something to golf that golf didn't know it needed.
Still to this day, you see people that will do the Happy Gilmore like wind up.
Oh yeah,
And that movie is so fucking old. Not as old as, you know,
us, but
grandma, but yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah, no, I am excited about the sequel, and I'll tell you this: there's a reason. There's one thing I would add to my golf bag right now that I don't have because I don't play that often. I probably haven't played since the pandemic. So it's been a couple of years since I've gotten out, just because I don't know why, right? Kids and such. But there's one thing I would buy that I just want in a golf bag if I ever start playing golf again regularly. Can you
The
guess
hockey
what it
stick
is?
putter.
Oh
Hockey
fuck
stick
yeah, the
putter.
hockey stick putter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I told my wife, I don't know how much you know about golf. I've got a Scotty Cameron putter, which is like
You might as well have just
supposedly
said
the best thing
Scotty Pippen. You
ever.
got a Scotty
Yeah,
Pippen putter?
dude, I don't know.
Cool.
I bought it because I was like, oh, this seems like a high quality thing. I should just buy this. I was in that I don't know enough, so I'll just buy like the best. I was in everybody goes through the phase of golf of the technology will make me better. I'll just buy the best technology thing, and didn't help.
It's all fine to me. But as I'm taking a look through this cast list, I wanted something that going through this time around. I wasn't Martha'd by this, but I certainly noticed it a whole lot more. But Julie Bowen from Modern Family fame, Very young in this movie, really great. But see, seems so much older back when I was, 12,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It was the
I
haircut.
think it was the haircut. She was going very, very mom Karen-esque
Yeah.
for that
Hmm.
that time period. But I'm wondering if she'll be back in it in the sequel. But something that I noticed in her performance is that, and haven't noticed in anything else, is that she does this weird squinty thing as she's saying her lines. And she does it like almost every scene that she's in. And so I don't know if you noticed it when you saw it,
No,
but
no, I
it was just
didn't.
a weird like nuance that I picked up. I was like, Julie Bowen, you're better than this. So, but like at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. Like back in the day, I was like, oh man, Virginia Venn, it's so hot. Yeah, cool. But now it's just like, oh, Julie Bowen, I'm critiquing your acting performance right now. Like that's what old people do, I guess. I don't know.
I was so glad when she got the gig and was like doing Modern Family a ton. I was like, good, she needs to work. She's hilarious.
She
And I
is
don't know if she
funny.
like took a minute or what, but I don't remember seeing her in a bunch after Happy Gilmore. But yeah, she's great in this. I agree. Looking at the cast list, I'd more ask you if you recognized like some of the cameos that
Oh
happened in
fuck
it.
yeah.
Um,
Someone I noticed that I love as a comedic actor is Will Sasso as one of the movers. He's from Mad TV fame. He was also on the show Loudermilk, which I think they won like an Emmy or some shit or whatever. But he's funny. He was in the Farrelly Brothers Three Stooges movie. He was
mhm,
Curly.
yeah.
So
Well, that was
just
early for him though. Like he was in a lot.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, what about you? Any other cameos that you kind of liked? Obviously, there's the golfers in there.
I didn't know who Lee Trevino was at the time. Uh,
Really?
no,
Hmm.
no.
Okay.
But Bob Barker, I mean, obviously hilarious. But I've got to go with Mr. Larson with Jaws.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, oh, that's great. That had to be Adam Sandler. Like, who's the most intimidating? We should get Jaws to do this. And he was like, sure, Mr. Gilmore. Oh,
He was a surprise to see because Jaws was always like one of my favorite characters and from what I remember in the Roger Moore Bond movies. And it was just kind of nice to see him be in another movie
yeah.
besides his big metal teeth in James Bond. He had his nice send away in James Bond where he had his lover on the moon in space or whatever it was. So he turned out to be a good guy after all.
I also have to call out RIP Joe Flattery. But this is somebody that one super quotable. You suck, you jackass. But
Oh
it
gosh, yeah.
in so many great, and I just recognized him from so many things that I watched at the time, from random TV shows and movies, all the way down to all the Martin Short stuff that he did, including the older one that they made a cartoon out of.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. The guy with like the yellow shirt and the
With the
hiked up
hair,
pants.
yeah,
Yeah.
Grimly,
Yeah.
Ed Grimley. Um, he also was always played the vampire on he was a guy that you knew, but you were just like before IMDb, you're just like, where do I know this guy from?
He was in Freddy Got Fingered with Tom Green. He was in Slackers, Anchorman, Legend of Ron Burgundy, who, by the way, just because I said that, do you ever meet someone or hang out with anyone or anyone in your family or friend circle that actually calls it Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy? Or do
No,
they just say
it's Anchorman.
Anchorman? Yeah,
It's just
that's what I
Anchorman.
thought. It wasn't it's kind of interesting how there was a handful of movies around that time period that would just add in an unnecessary tagline. So like Dodgeball, a true underdog story, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, like unnecessary taglines to movies. Why? Why did they do that? And why did they stop doing that?
Because they didn't need it. Like this movie, a simple
Really?
title works. Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. Happy Gilmore.
Ha
The
on one cheek, PPY right there on the other.
The tragedy of a hockey player. That's what it should like. Happy Gilmore, the tragedy of a hockey player, the rise of a golf star. That's what it would have been. But yeah, I mean, like this movie has so many great things to talk about. So many actors. Obviously, you have some other people in there. Robert Smigel, who I didn't even know what Robert Smigel looked like until I saw his name in the credits.
He
But
was the
Robert
IRS
Smigel,
agent.
yeah, for all of those who love the Smigel shorts on Saturday Night Live, the digital shorts, and then also Ace and Gary, the ambiguously gay duo, Robert Smigel's creation. So pretty cool to see him as an actor.
The thing you got to remember about Robert Smigel is he wasn't taking her stuff. It wasn't coming home to his house.
Well, now you're going to be really mad.
Mhm. I've got to
And
take the house.
I think you mentioned it before, but I think we need to spend a little bit more time on Ben Stiller, right? Ben Stiller as the orderly at the retirement home, fucking hilarious.
Mhm.
So good. And yeah, just like how many times have you said, you're like, oh, your back hurts, or well, your fingers hurt. Well, now your back's gonna hurt because you just pulled lawn duty. So many times I've said that line, and everyone's just like, huh? It's
I'm
like,
going to give you a warm glass and shut the hell up. You go to sleep or I put you to sleep.
first few times I said that to my kids, my wife was like, what the fuck is your problem?
I said the same thing. And my wife's like, no,
It's
no.
hilarious. I will wholeheartedly endorse anyone who does that to their kids because it's funny. It's not hurting them. It's just
Not
a quote.
abuse.
And you
I'm
know
not
what?
really going to do it. Calm down.
I hope they quote some questionable shit back. You know, it's all good.
It's if I am blessed with a kid who quotes hilarious and inappropriate movies to everybody, I feel like I'm winning. I feel like we're there.
So my two boys have completely polar opposite senses of humor. So my oldest is kind of like the dry, sarcastic dad type of humor, where my younger one is like he'll say shit and he doesn't even mean to be funny. It's just fucking hilarious. It's like a natural thing for him. And so he starts quoting like some movies now. He doesn't know what the phrase means, but he starts saying that shit. And my wife just looks at me. He's like, "Where did he learn that from?" I was like, "Well, he probably learned that from me." But what else do we got on this movie? Any other good spots? Like I
I
think
mean,
like the montages throughout the golf tournaments is pretty fucking awesome. Where he's just like cashing or he's like holding on to these big ass checks. That's always fucking good. But what else you got?
well, I think there's two things that we need to talk about here. One, well, technically three, but the two that we haven't touched on yet is Carl Weathers' brilliance in this movie. You and I knew Carl Weathers from Rocky, and that's it. And I don't even know if I saw Rocky before I saw this movie.
Oh, there was something else I knew him from.
Oh, Predator. I'm sorry.
Predator for sure. And
Over
then
the Top.
Action Jackson.
Uh,
Not over the top. Was he in Over the Top? I don't even.
Action Jackson. How old were you when you
Action.
saw Action Jackson?
I still have not seen Action Jackson to this day. I've been waiting for like a special occasion. So maybe for the podcast. I don't know. But I there was this kid in high school. Uh, his name was Andrew Jackson. I think it was. I don't know. His last name was Jackson. Either way, but he was like 5'2" white kid, kind of stocky with freckles, and people would always call him Action Jackson just because of his name. It's such a funny nickname for a guy that could care less about the athletics. It was just really good. But you know what I also remembered Carl Weathers from
Hmm.
is a little TV show called Street Justice, where he was Detective Adam Boudreaux, a cop. I watched it solely because of him.
I did not. I was not blessed with that as a child. I didn't get there with Carl. Carl was Chubbs for me. Chubbs and Apollo, and that's all I needed.
That's all you really do need.
That's
But he
it.
does have some fantastic acting credits.
The
So
Mandalorian, a triumphant return to the screen for Carl Weathers. Um,
yeah,
and a great directorial performance as
he
well.
was
But
he was in God, what's that show with Jason Bateman? Gosh, on Fox. It was like a really big
Arrested
comedy show.
Development.
Yeah, Arrested Development. He was in that too, so
Yeah.
that was pretty sweet. But yeah, like
He was
for
so
all
good in this movie. And
yeah,
the Chubb storyline was hilarious.
it
It's made of wood.
was.
It's real sturdy.
Yeah. It's like, and the fact that like Adam Sandler or Happy never gets comfortable with him and his wooden hand.
Just
Never. He always makes like a
you got this.
weird, yeah, it's just kind of funny that that's the
Oh
case.
man.
But oh man, I want to go through the music, and I just want to do a simple thing if it's a banger or blah, and just give your opinion on this. So we'll kind of do this.
Happy Gilmore,
Not
quality music, and definitely introduced me to some music that maybe I didn't know at the time.
yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll start off with "We've Only Just Begun" by the Carpenters.
In this movie, it fits, but not something on my normal playlist. Kind of a blah for me.
Agreed, blah for me as well. "Tuesday's Gone" by Leonard Skinner.
A song that ended two great 90s movies, right?
What was the
This
other one? I know what.
Dazed and Confused.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, all right.
This and Dazed and Confused. But I always think of it as the end of Happy Gilmore. And this, it absolutely brought me, this movie brought me Leonard Skinner in many ways. Banger. Love me some Tuesdays Gone.
Banger for sure. Like when I heard this song, I was just like, oh, this is a really cool song. I never really listened to a whole lot of Skinnerd. I knew Sweet Home Alabama, but that was pretty much it. But other than that, it was like, oh, okay, cool. This is a cool song. And when I heard it was Leonard Skinner, I was like, great. Here's another song I like by them. Magic by Pilot.
Only when sung by Jack Black is it a banger.
This is a banger for me just because it reminds me of those 70s infomercials late at night where it's like, do you want to listen to the golden sounds of the 70s? And like, this is one of those songs. So like, yeah, I'm good with this one. Banger. Um, I think you know my answer on this one, but Kiss You All Over by Exile, total banger for
Only
sure.
when sung by Sandler into,
Oh man.
yeah, no, into the first version of the Ring doorbell, the intercom.
Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas.
I mean, you gotta love some Kansas. Anytime there's cowbell.
Banger. Banger for sure. Jump Around by House of Pain. Banger. Might be one of my top
I
50
know all the
songs
words
ever.
to this. I'm a huge fan.
This where would this rank on like a top 50 for you?
Jump around.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's on my top 50. I just like the
Really?
song.
It is up there because I mean it stood the test of time for me and it's been in multiple movies.
I mean, it is a
This
great jock jam for those
yeah,
of us that had the jock jams.
I mean
Sequence.
the fact that this was in Happy Gilmore and Mrs. Doubtfire, I mean that's just right there is just
Oh, there's so
poised
many
for
of these
greatness.
movies that have touched multiple films in huge ways, and I agree. Jump Around is one of them. We talked about Tuesdays Gone. Um, the next one also a great music movie song, Endless Love. But
I'm gonna say
there,
that's blah for me.
oh, there is. It might be one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, and I absolutely quote friends listen to Endless Love in the Dark all the time. But when they pan out and they've got he's just mouthing it along, it's like, how many times has he done this?
Yeah.
This is amazing. What's Happy Gilmore's move? Endless Love at the hockey rink.
That's a I like it's a banger only because in the scene, right? It's that to me, that's the only reason I consider that a banger because that guy who drives the Zamboni, whoever's like, supervising Happy at the at the ice rink, that just makes the scene for me. What about Wooly Bully by Sam and the Sham and the Pharaohs?
I love me some oldies tunes. So it's a banger for me, but it's not, it doesn't like, it doesn't make the movie like Endless Love does.
Hmm. I think just because that little montage,
The
it's a
montage
banger
is
for me.
great. It's a great montage song.
Yeah. What about this is a controversial one. Rock and Roll Part 2 by Gary Glitter.
It's another great jock jam that um it's in the way they use it in the film. It brings a completely different sense of sport into the hold up the quiet. Golf is supposed to be calm and gentlemanly. So I like the way that they use it to integrate Happy's fans into the movie. I dig it. I dig it. And it's a banger. Who doesn't love that song?
So some people will say that they don't like the song just because the guy who performed it is a big piece of shit, sex offender. So that would be the only reason as to why. But it was like on every fucking Jock Jams CD, even if it was like a different Jock Jams volume. For some reason, that song was like sampled or put into it. But yeah, and then of course it got some more exposure in Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. So
That was a really sweet scene.
it was by a song by a piece of shit guy. So I don't know. Do
I
you feel
mean,
like do you separate the just like R. Kelly and perhaps P Diddy? I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
I,
See
I
how it all.
so I'm trying to think of the comedian who said this. I don't know if it's Chappelle or not, and I don't want to give undue credit. It might be Segura. I don't know, but you still listen to Thriller. I separate.
Okay.
People can be two things. They could be a great musician, but they don't need to be the best person. Like, you know, it's
Hey
Chris
man, I know.
Rock. To quote an SNL alum, Chris Rock said it best. He's not Pastor Clinton. He's President Clinton. He's just a man.
I I don't mind. I can separate song from controversy because, dude, R. Kelly's remix to Ignition
I was
might
just thinking
be
that.
so it might be top 25 of all time.
I mean, like there's so many great Michael Jackson songs that don't act like you're not gonna be like Billy like you're not. It's not gonna
Yo,
happen. And then I'm
you're
like,
talking
don't act like if you hear Ignition or the remix to Ignition somewhere, you're not gonna do the whole song.
fresh and hot or hot and fresh out the kitchen. But to go back, and this is like a hot take, but not a Michael Jackson fan. I respect his contribution to music. But I'm not like, oh man, Michael Jackson. Have you listened to the Thriller album? Like, no, I haven't. No, no,
That's
probably
your
won't
problem.
ever.
That's your problem, man. There's
No,
just so
no.
much.
To quote you, art isn't for everyone, and that's just not my cup of tea for art. So, and when it all
Dan, I
comes down
really
to it,
hope, you know what I really hope at some point? I hope that some point you need to make a change and you look at the man in the mirror and you take in the king of pop at some point.
I will refuse to take in the King of Pop, much like some of those alleged children refuse to take in the King of Pop. But
Oh,
unfortunately, the
mm.
King of Pop has his ways. So, um,
If
not
you
to
want to
not
make
to
the
get
world a better
too
place, you got to
not to get too dreary about this, but did you ever see that like HBO documentary with like Leaving Neverland or whatever it was called? I can't
I've
remember the name
watched
of
a
it.
couple of them. Yeah, I watched them.
It was almost it's so if that is true, not to say that those people are incorrect or their accusations or whatever. There's a lot of back and forth of if it's accurate or not, but it was my wife and I when we were watching it, it was just like so freaking ridiculous to us that the way that there was one point of the documentary where one of the men were talking about like this is the theater that he would have sex with me in. And then he would just go to like another room. This is the closet that he would have sex with me. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, you're not even buffering anything. It's just like, here's the room where we had sex. There's the room we had sex. It's like, it's such a sad ordeal. And whatever the truth is, that's not the reason why I don't like Michael Jackson. It's just because I'm not a big fan of his music. That's all. That's all there is to it.
Well, I think that there's, I think that every time I see one of those documentaries, right, the Michael Jackson one, the Nickelodeon one, I'm like, what the hell are these parents doing? What
I haven't seen the Nickelodeon one.
hell?
Is it
I
kind of the same?
I've been avoiding it, but I've seen parts of it, and it's yeah, it's a what the hell are these parents doing? Like, how are you not? Whatever. But I digress. None of that happened in Happy Gilmore, and Adam Sandler is an upstanding citizen. And Rock and Roll
Let
Part Two, as much as we all hate it, is a jock jams banger.
and what about Money? That's What I Want by Barrett Strong.
Not the best use of this song in a movie. Empire Records, my friend.
Hmm.
Empire Records.
I wasn't a huge fan of Empire Records. I get it why people like it, but I like this version of it or this use as opposed to Empire Records.
Oh, you got to go back and watch Empire Records. It just gets better with age. The soundtrack. Oh,
I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack's great. It's just not my. It was a little too mushy for me in my grunge days of being a preteen. So
it's
yeah,
okay. You're more in touch with your emotions now, so you'll like it. But no, I think that
maybe, but
Happy Gilmore, in and of itself, and all of the music we just talked about, makes this movie so much better. And I think this is the best soundtrack to a Sandler movie.
that's fair to say. Well, I mean, we're given so many kudos. I got a question to ask you, Mark. When it comes to Happy Gilmore, can you do this movie all day?
It's in the hole, buddy. It's in the hole.
Fantastic.
When you tee up this movie, and you look down the fairway, are you smashing it, or are you hitting from the ladies' tees on Happy Gilmore?
Uh, uh, if you're meaning if I can do this all day, then yes, I can
Exactly
do
what I'm
this all
meaning.
day. Yes, I can do this movie all day. I mean, we've basically just complimented this movie for like the past 30, 40 minutes. So, yeah, I think if you're not a golf fan, that's okay. This might make you a golf fan, or at least, at the very least, might make you entertain the thought of going to the driving range. So,
Just
yeah,
to try, just to
I'm good
try.
for it. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: are you excited for the sequel?
Yeah. Yeah. I've found a new appreciation for Sandler. For a while, I was like, Adam Sandler movies suck. Like this stuff is garbage. But then I watched them. I gave it a chance and I watched them. I was like,
Hmm.
they're there for entertainment. You know, it's not something that and he has some great dramatic acting chops. Like Uncut Gems was so fucking anxiety filled for me. Like I can't believe like my wife and I were just going through that entire movie like he's in the clear. Like, oh, why does he fucking want to bet everything on this fucking bullshit? Like this is so ridiculous. And yeah, no, I appreciate his stuff. I just watched the basketball movie that he had. That was pretty sweet. I'm a big basketball fan,
Yeah.
and so was Adam Sandler. So it was cool to see. And yeah, yeah. What about you? Do you want to see the sequel or what?
Oh, I'm stoked. I will watch that first day. Immediate. Future podcast episode 100%. Like,
Well,
send us the press kit. We will do all of the Happy Gilmore press.
well, when it comes to the movie, we can do this all day. But that wraps it up for this episode. I'm Dan, the part-time adventurer. That's Mark, the resident Jedi.
Like, subscribe, tell us we absolutely killed it. And we're here for it. But yeah, I'm excited for what this means, but I'm also sad that we won't see some of the great cast of this movie again. So I think at this point we got to raise it up.
Scenes and most touching scenes in this movie.
Shut up, Happy. Don't feel bad about me. I got my hand back, see? We've only just begun to live. white lace and promises.
And you know what this is?
Kiss for luck and we're
This is a missed opportunity by the Oscars. They did the in memoriam with all of the live music and singers. They could have just opened it with that scene, and it would have been great. Just like
It would have been great. It would have been great. But what a great way to end this podcast. RIP to Carl Weathers, and also RIP who just passed away today, Joe Flaherty. Not Joe Flattery, but Joe Flaherty. So I'll make sure that we rewind that and make sure everyone knows that once again, you're keeping that streak going of names mispronounced, but no disrespect to Joe Flaherty. RIP. Thoughts go out to his family and friends. But until next time, we will see y'all later.